Thank you, club members. At this time, we're asking that we have your opening statement, Calvin Clifton, who is candidate for the Sullivan County Highway Commission.
Thank you, Mary Lee, and thank all of you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this club for all these years. I'm gonna go back to 1988 when I came to the city of Kingsport. A gentleman named Bob Clear, he hired me and gave me an opportunity to work in the public sector, and he mentored me, and eventually he introduced me to this club. So I owe a lot to Mr. Clear. He was a fine man. I want to again acknowledge my wife Leslie and our son Peyton. Peyton's serving as the treasurer for our campaign, and glad they're here today. I'm not going to go into a lot of background because most of you know me. I will say that I did serve with the city of Kingsport for about 11 years in water and wastewater, and also in the transportation department. So I've got that background. I then worked for the city of Athens for about 5.5 years as public works director, streets, roads, sanitation, the whole 9 yards. And then I came back to Kingsport, and I've been on the private side, private consulting, working for counties and cities throughout the Southeast. So that's a little bit about my background I want to share with you. I'd like to share with you my vision for the highway department. I see a need for a proactive department that is constantly looking forward while addressing the needs of today. That's what I would like to, that's my vision for the department, and that's what we'll try to do going forward if I'm successful and fortunate enough to be elected. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will begin our questioning. What improvements in the Sullivan County Highway Department would you like to see in the next 4 years?
Well, when you think of improvements, I think we always think about resurfacing roads and fixing potholes and fixing bridges and so on. But, well, I want to share with you my objectives for the office itself. And that's where I see a real need for improvement. The first is identifying transportation needs and issues before they become a problem. Secondly, we would seek funding to address those problems and needs. We would seek those funds through federal and state grants to address those. You'll hear me use the word engagement often. That's one goal that I have is to be more engaged at all levels, whether we're talking about the county commission, the citizenry, economic development agencies, the school board. I want to be engaged with all of those agencies. If we can do those, I feel like it's kind of my slogan, moving forward together. If we can do those three things, I think we can move forward together. One thing I would address on a physical item is the Sullivan County Asphalt plant. That plant, I think, was early 1970s. Sullivan County is fortunate to have an asphalt plant that they run. There's no county plants are permitted now, but that plant needs some work. And that's one thing I would probably work with the county commission to identify some funding opportunities to rehabilitate that plant, to make it more efficient. The plant is no longer certified by the Department of Transportation, so the asphalt made at that plant can only be used on county roads. It cannot be used on state aid roads, which we can talk more about later.
Thank you, Mr. Clifton. As a matter of fact, I do have a question that would make more sense for you to respond to right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Sullivan County is one of the very few counties to have its own asphalt plant. How often do you, or would you, compare the cost of production with other counties that have asphalt plants and or with private companies?
As far as how often, I think that's something you would need to look at annually, directly, look at that annually, but also look at it when you see increases in material cost, the price of liquid asphalt, the price of diesel fuel for operating the equipment, but that needs to be looked at annually, and especially at budget time. As I said, the plant is not certified for state aid paving. Whether we could get that plant recertified is, that would probably be difficult, but we would have to look at those costs, because the county is having to go to a private asphalt company, whether it be bid out or whatever, and purchase those state aid mixes directly from a provider. It's a little convoluted, I guess, but.
Well, thank you. And it did piggyback, if you will, on your opening statement. As most of us in this city know, the City of Kingsport has executed several payment analyses to objectively prioritize which road segments should be paved first. And if you haven't noticed in the Kingsport Times News, you get updates from time to time. Do you think that the county should use a similar analysis to decide which roads should be paved annually?
Certainly. I think what you're referring to is a pavement condition index, PCI. We also use the terminology asset inventory, asset management plans to identify those assets and prioritize the needs. That's definitely something that the county should be doing. The state of Tennessee, the DOT, they maintain some data, but they don't provide that data for the local roads. I believe that the previous incumbent, I think they began a PCI condition assessment, but I think that's been discontinued. I don't think they're utilizing that any longer. I think they collected a lot of data. Collecting the data is only the front end of that process. Once you have that data, then you go back and you work on that data to make those determinations and to set those priorities. So I don't think that's happening now, and it's something that we would definitely want to implement.
Thank you. Another question in terms of planning. Do you think the county should do a comprehensive transportation plan that complements the required transportation plans that Kingsport and Bristol's Metropolitan Transportation Planning Associations periodically complete to satisfy both Tdot and the Federal Highway Administrative Rules, and to ensure that Sullivan County has a very proactive transportation plan?
Absolutely. Sullivan County is part of the Kingsport Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Bristol MPO. It's also part of the Rural Planning Organization, and I think such a long-term study is definitely needed. The involvement of the RPO to help facilitate that is important. So much of the highway system in Sullivan County is actually in urban areas. It's not just the rural roads like you would see out in Hickory Tree and out in those rural areas. A lot of our roads actually touch the City of Kingsport, the City of Bristol, and Bluff City. So yes, we would definitely advocate for that type of long-range study.
Thank you. And continuing our conversation about roads. While many county roads seem to be paved well, the added pavement depth sometimes creates a more dangerous situation with no level shoulders. We've all seen that. How often, miles or year, do you think that the county should be installing stormwater pipe before creating greater pavement depth?
That's a tough one because there's so many different issues at play there. Are you talking about cross drains? Are you talking about conveyances to replace ditches? That's a very difficult question. I think what we're seeing is the layer and layer and layer of asphalts are just stacking up. Those surfaces should be looked at through the pavement condition index. Some of those areas should be milled. Those layers should be milled away. The base areas should be refurbished, and then a new topping put over that. But as far as the drainage, I see a real need for maintenance to the existing ditches. I drive, going out into the county and driving around when we're seeing a lot of heavy rains. The edges of the roadway, what I call sideboards, have been allowed to build up, and those need to be cut back and allowing the water to run off into the ditches, and the ditches themselves need to be maintained. In certain cases, yes, installing closed piping systems is a much better means of conveying the water, but you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. Some areas you may need curbing, you may need catch basins and all that type of additions to just putting in a pipe.
Thank you. And this question would speak to your role as commissioner. How does the county highway department coordinate not only with the city water and sewer departments, but also with other public utilities in the rural areas on their piping improvements and repaving?
Not being in the office, that's a very difficult question to answer, but I believe there are, Ryan McReynolds can answer this, but I believe there are 7 water providers in Sullivan County. There's a couple different electric service providers. You've got cable TV, you've got Atmos Energy gas lines, you've got all these different utilities. One of the first things that I would do would be to get a meeting with each of these utility providers, whether it be all the water folks at one time, all the electric folks at one time, and I would like to sit down with them and introduce myself to say that, hey, we're all in this together. You have underground utilities here. We may have a need to repave this road. What are your plans? Do you need to make a repair or make a replacement? Let's work together to coordinate that, because we don't want to resurface a road and then 3 days later, one of the utility providers come in and cut open the road. So I would certainly try to get a meeting with those folks so we know each other face to face, and then that way going forward, the folks out in the field doing the work can work directly with their field folks.
I personally liked your analogy because, as Ronnie would know, I mentioned something like that in the street where I live just this morning. At this time, we thank you obviously for your questions and the responses that you gave, including your opening statement with your background as well. But we would like your closing statements at this time.
Thank you. I thought about this several hours, what I want to say, but I'd like to be a voice for all of Sullivan County, not just the county highway department, but I would like to work with Ryan McReynolds, with Bill Zora, work with the folks with the city of Kingsport, the city of Bristol. What's good for those cities is good for Sullivan County. And I would like to advocate with the cities, so we're speaking as one voice. We all know what our goals are, what our objectives are. So when we go to Tdot, we go together, and we're presenting a single front. I mentioned engagement, more engagement with the DOTs, and when I say DOTs in plural, Bristol, they have needs with the Virginia Department of Transportation. The Bristol MPO involves both Tdot and VDOT, so I would like to engage with both of those agencies. Engaging, I mentioned earlier, the Economic Industrial Development. Also would get involved with the Tennessee County Highway Officials Association. Great opportunities there for collaboration. We'll share 3 concerns that I have going forward. Probably the biggest concerns that I have are inflation. We now have an infrastructure bill. We have ARPA money. We have all these funding sources now. but inflation is eating up those funds. Every day we wait to bid a project, the more it's going up. Staffing. We have these funds now, but do we have the staff to design the projects, build the projects, and maintain the projects? And then thirdly is diminishing fuel taxes. As we see more electric cars, as we see higher miles per gallon, those fuel taxes are going down while prices are going up. Very quickly, in this race, you have two choices. I'm bringing you a choice. We have two totally different backgrounds, two different skill sets. His is in operations and maintenance. Mine is in managerial and administrative functions. That's your choice, and I appreciate this opportunity, and I would certainly appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And again, for each of our candidates, we thank you for joining us today. Good luck on your campaign, and now back to Don for our closing.